Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to today's edition of the HR Talk, proudly brought to you by the HR Certification Center. If you're joining us and you're a business leader, HR professional, or a business executive, we will be having a transformational conversation with an esteemed person today. Take your pen, take your jotters, and let's get ready to dive in. We are honored to host a leader whose track record in strategy development, marketing excellence, and organizational transformation speaks volume. We are talking about none other than Mr. Michael Abbiw, CEO of MGA Consulting and President of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, Ghana. Our topic for today's discussion is the leadership blueprint. We're going to talk about driving performance through strategic execution. And this topic couldn't be more timely. We are in an era where companies spend loads of money developing or planning strategy for the business. And after that, practically nothing is done about it. We will be finding out what is happening, why are execution not being done, where we can place people when we talk about executing strategy. Stick and stay, don't go anywhere.
Why do 93% of the world's leading multinational companies prefer certified professionals? Because they tend to be committed to higher standards and ethics and maintain an informed intercultural competency. Whether you're seeking to build a career or to upgrade your HR professional career, you need to get trained and certified at the HR Certification Center today. Our experience in training and certifying HR professionals is unparalleled. We're trusted to offer a comprehensive portfolio of advanced professional credentials for the HR professionals worldwide, and today, more than 500,000 HR professionals worldwide in 125 plus countries proudly maintain our credentials as a mark of higher professional distinction. HR Certification Center. Call or WhatsApp today on 0244 122 855.
So before we dig into the questions, we would like to take your opening remarks, or what do you have to say to our audience before we go into the technicalities of today's discussion?
So I want to greet all your listeners, and I want to greet all the professionals out there. You know, the subject matter of leadership and strategy, it's a very important thing. And, you know, I like what, for instance, the founder of the HRCC always says that, you know, whether a company will succeed or fail, then it all depends on leadership. And therefore, it's become more important now for us to look at the subject matter of leadership. And also when we look at leadership, then the subject matter for strategy becomes critical. Because it's all about what strategy do we have, one over the other. And but most crucial is what we are about to discuss today is the execution. Because one can have the best of strategies, one can look at the best of solutions on paper, but then when it comes to execution, that is where there's a major problem. And usually I tell organizations that, you know what, you can get us in, we can come and do a very beautiful thing. But if we don't have a clear plan as to how we are going to execute this strategy, and we don't have the commitment of the people to execute the strategy, and then we don't put in enough control systems to ensure that we are executing the strategy becomes useless, no matter how good it is.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Abbiw. I'm sure if I leave you, we'll finish the discussion and I don't have to ask any questions at all. Yeah. But let's go deeper into the discussion of leadership, or the topic of leadership. And let me issue this disclaimer, but that leadership, we are not talking about positions, but we are talking about influence, we are talking about impact, we are talking about results. And so the fact that you're the CEO, the fact that you're the business leader, the fact that you're the head of marketing doesn't necessarily make you a leader. That's but true. It is what you do, how you influence the system to deliver results, to deliver value for the stakeholders. That is what we are talking about. Yeah. So right there, let me ask you this question. If we talk about strategic execution, what does it mean to you as a leader, and how has it shaped your journey across the various industries that you have worked in?
So I would want to take it from not only I have worked in, but looking at the clients that I've also, worked with, and once we're looking at that question, we are looking at how do you break down what is it that you want to do in a way that every single person within the organization understands what is it that we have all agreed to do. And one of the key things is to drive that linkages. We must understand that, leadership, as you indicated, is about the people. It's about, so one of the beginning stages of any strategic document is the vision. And that is a leadership thing, gaining that commitment of every single member of the organization and letting them believe in the direction in which the organization wants to go. And for me, that becomes the beginning. And how do we achieve that? It's where the strategic linkages are from the strategy development and to implementation must now begin. And to do that, the first is involvement. How are we creating the strategy has a major impact on whether the strategy can be implemented or executed or not. Are we doing it with the people? And usually you have this question when people talk about, is it bottom up, bottom? and I remember there was one class and I decided that, okay, let's look at the roadmap of strategy development. And after looking at the roadmap, then the question was, okay, is it up, bottom or bottom up? And then they said, okay, this one looks like up, bottom, bottom up, bottom.
So you meet in the middle.
Yeah, because the whole idea is this: the leader must have and conceptualize the vision. That's the first one, and the vision must be in a way that involves every single key area of the organization. My recommendations are, usually 3, although the last one looks at 2 areas. The first one is that whatever the vision is, does it bring value to the shareholders, to the owners of the business? So no matter how you create the vision, have you involved that value creation for the shareholders? That's number 1. Number 2, which is very critical and mostly is lost out, is that if you are designing the vision, did you design the vision with the employees, those who must deliver on those visions? Have they been considered in the framework, in the direction in which you want to take the organization? And I think as we go forward, we'll look at it in details. And there's a third one, which is also the community and your client or customers. Have we also factored into the community? Because now if you look at where the world is going, we are talking about ESGs, we are talking about sustainability, and you cannot have a vision that doesn't capture these 3. And sometimes what would then prevent execution, and this is just from the top level, is that if the vision doesn't align to these 3 areas, then you would have a problem with execution.
Right. So, Mr. Abbiw, you spoke about 3 things. What stood out for me is the fact that the leader must conceptualize the vision, and that vision must work with people. You must consider the people in developing the vision. And when that is done, you must also look at the customers, the people, the community, because there is a sustainability aspect of every business success. That is key. Now let's look at your experience over the years. I know you've dealt with insurance, you've dealt with sales, you've done a lot of consulting work, and we see you do, how do we call it, conferences and seminars on issues of sale, customer service, and you branch into business marketing and all of that. In your experience, what are the key elements that would turn a well-written strategy into actual measurable, I'm choosing my words carefully, actual measurable goals or results? Because we've learned, we've seen issues where the strategy is delivered, possibly actionable, but not measured, because there's always evaluation at the end of it. What would you say are the key elements that can turn a well-written strategy into actual measurable goals?
I would want to take it from this. If you take any strategy, does your staff members understand the strategy? Or does it look like an abstract concept to them? Is it written in a way, a language, in a formula that they see themselves in it? If you do that, then you would be able to be achieving what you are aiming for. So let's look at some of the steps. The first thing is that you need to involve your people in developing this strategy. A quick run through, so you have your vision, your mission, maybe your strategic pillars or the key pillars that you want to build it on, and then you have the objectives. So one of the things also that you need to get right is your objectives. How is your objective stated? And we all know, we talk about objectives being SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. But I always add the last C, and that is within this modern competitive environment, the objectives must have the last C, and that is it challenging enough? Because one, you are competing with other people within the market. So it starts from there. And that is where, for instance, the measurable part of your strategy now comes in. What is it that you want to achieve on every line? And that also is very important. And I need to indicate that there is also a concept on how objectives are set. And there are various objectives one wants to set. So if you have, for instance, a vision that talks about the 3 areas I spoke about, that is the shareholders, the employees, or the people, and then the community. If you, the question is that, is your objectives responding to all of them? And if you have objectives that is responding to all of them, you realize that the objective speaks about, for instance, revenue, it speaks about profitability, market share, but it also speaks about people. It also speaks about environmental sustainability, corporate social responsibility. And so once you have your objectives clear and well stated, it helps one with execution. Now, once you move away from the objective, now the next thing you want to do to ensure that alignment is that you need to ensure that now the grassroots are involved in the specific objectives, the specific strategies that now meets up with the objective. Now, they ought to, and sometimes I tell leaders that, let me show you something. No matter what you do, you need to involve them. You have what you want. But sometimes when you go to them and you ask them, they are going to give the same thing back to you. And however, they feel that, oh, we contributed this. I brought this thing up. And sometimes it also adds to alignment. Why? Because if I'm the one that is suggesting to the organization that we need to incorporate a very, a social media, campaign into this program, then it becomes easier for you to now ask me to lead that agenda, thereby getting that support. So on that level, you want to develop your strategies with them. Allow the team to come up with the strategic alternatives. And when it comes to those strategy formulation, these are 4 quick steps. First is to have the alternatives, and then to evaluate those alternatives, select those that best deliver on your objectives. And then when you do that, you align it with the organization in terms of resources, in terms of people, and how you can be able to do that. Now, if you are doing all these and you are doing it with them, you realize that whatever strategy that comes up becomes a strategy that emanated from them. And leadership now fine-tunes those strategies and then present it back. The third thing I will talk about is also communication, which is very key. And what do we say, and why would I say communication is key? And there are a lot of organizations, if you go and you ask those implementing the strategy, whether they've seen the strategy before, they'll tell you no. Why? Because the strategy is supposedly a secret document that some ESCO members must see.
Have access to.
And so how do you gain alignment? A good strategy, a strategy that can be implemented, and you gain the commitment of every staff to, it's a strategy that has been communicated. Now, there's a thing about communication also I keep on saying. It's just not about saying this is it. Communication must happen in an environment where you give them the opportunity to also say something. You give them the opportunity to ask questions. You give them opportunity to be able to find, look for details and the hows and the resources availability for each of the strategic initiatives. And there's the last thing I say about communication. If they give you feedback and you will not use it, you will not implement it, you will not consider it, then please don't go to them.
And the next time they will not give you the feedback.
And that is happening in a lot of organizations. Oh, they know what they are going to do already, so why should I talk? Why should I make inputs and all those things? Right. So in a nutshell, this is what, so you start with making sure the vision is clear, the objectives are well stated and very involving, and then you look at the formulation itself, involving them, and the third thing is being able to well communicate. But the last one is about how do we monitor.
Right. Ms. Abbiw, we will take a break, and when we come back, we will be talking about the people bit in ESG. So ESG talks about 3 Ps. We talk about profit, we talk about people, we talk about the planet. And I dare say that leadership is always looking at the profit. You will tell us what your experience have been with boardroom leadership. Stick and stay, we will be back. Okay, so you're welcome back to the HR Talk, proudly brought to you by the HR Certification Center, a platform designed to bridge the gap between aspiration and execution, potential and performance. And today we're having a conversation with Mr. Michael Abbiw, and we are talking about leadership. We want to have that blueprint where people can say, this is it for leadership. And we left off on the note of people, profit, and planet. And I was asking Mr. Abbiw that it looks like, or it feels like, the boardroom is always talking about profit and not people and planet. Mr. Abbiw, share your experience. What has been happening in the boardroom?
It's quite interesting. And I know why you would want to talk about people, because HR Certification Center is all about people. But interestingly, the whole conversation about boardroom is now moving towards the ESG and also looking at sustainable activities. In fact, boards are now expected under corporate governance to start reporting on these issues of sustainability. And now, as part of when you take the Fortune companies, the top organizations, the international firms, their accounting and reporting also now includes reporting on sustainability issues. However, I would want to look at it from the fact of the people dimension, because when you take the side of the planet or sustainability, the environment, there's been a lot of talk, and you realize that there are a lot of conversations going up now in the boardroom on how do we make our activities sustainable. One big issue that has also come up is when you are dealing with international value chains, international partnerships, international organizations, the whole question about the sustainable development goals and sustainability has become a major issue. One thing that we really need to rather take care of is the issue of people. And you realize that there's been a lot of arguments and conversations around ensuring that the HR business partner is part of ESCO, ensuring that HR is being discussed in the boardrooms. I have gone far to even indicate that there are some key professions that must be present within any composition of a board, and that is to say the area of HR. You cannot pile a board with accountants and lawyers when every single strategy that one develops, they would have to use the people to develop it. And therefore, we need to have that people dimension within the boardroom. And I think that a number of boards are coming to the realization that the way forward is to have these people conversations and being elevated at the board level. And more so, you see a lot more HR practitioners now being looked at the ESCO level. And it's a conversation that we need to keep on going with that, because no matter the strategy, no matter how good it's crafted, no matter how the plan is put in place to implement it, if you do not resolve the fact of the people, how are we developing them? How are we resourcing them? How are we creating the enabling environment for them to be able to perform? How are we trying to get their buy-in into the strategies and the processes that we want to put in place? These are the key issues, and organizations that want to thrive and survive must be looking at these issues.
Right. Mr. Abbiw, you spoke about people, and all of the conversation we are having today is centered on people. And I mentioned from the beginning that leadership is performance, and performance is execution. So you can build a nice strategy, or you can have a nice strategic plan and have beautifully put it on paper and do all the discussions at ESCO level. But if you do not involve people, that strategy is going nowhere. And so it takes leadership to make it work, or it takes leadership to make the execution see the light of day. And one of the key drivers of leadership is the HR manager, or the HR practitioner, or the one in charge of people and culture. Now people are calling it culture transformation, people and culture, people and transformation. Now others are even calling it human capital. Whatever your title is, we see you as the people leader. And I want you to share your experience, or give us some nuggets on how the HR leader can better support the strategic execution. So maybe at ESCO level, we've had all the discussion. How can the HR leader take that strategy document, run with it, involve the people, explain it to the people, and get everybody aligned in delivering on that strategic document?
That's quite interesting. And for instance, in my training rooms, in my capacity building rooms, it's one of the key discussions that I always say we need to bring up, and not only, for instance, the HR practitioner or the HR leader, but also finance. But most will want to skew towards HR for now. And the thing is this: do HR managers know how to develop the HR plan? Do they know and understand what must go into an HR plan? And for me, that's the first thing I want them to start knowing, and that's my experience. Because usually we have what I call to-do list. So what am I going to do for training? What am I going to do when it comes to performance management? What am I going to do in terms of leave management? What am I going to do in terms of emoluments and staff motivation? So we have this disjointed document, or disjointed approach to HR management. And I think that HR business leaders should take advantage of the Institute of Leadership and Strategy, and start looking at how do we develop an HR strategy. And for me, that is the beginning. And when you look at developing an HR strategy, one of the key things is that what do I see, and how do I see myself in the corporate strategy, and how do I translate the corporate strategy into meaningful activities within the HR framework. For instance, you then get to be able to see how operations want to implement their program for the year. You see how finance want to implement their program for the year. Now, HR must now ask themselves, how do I provide that needed support in order to get these people to be able to be successful? And that will then feed into what you call the HR plan. Now, there are some key elements that we cannot miss out, and I want to really talk about it. The first one is about building capacity. Building capacity of the people. There are times where you go into various organizations and they expect people to perform at a role, at a level, at some capacity, which they have not developed the people in. There's a current project I'm doing with one of the savings and loans organizations, and I asked them, several people have been promoted into leadership. They were good officers, they were good branch managers, they were good underwriters, or they were good relationship managers, they were good operations people, and they have been promoted into management. So I asked, is there any management development program, a transition program, where these people are now taught how to lead? Because how to lead and manage is different from how to do the technical stuff. And interestingly, Interestingly, HR, CEO, all accepted that, you know what, we think the problem is from us because we've never equipped them. And that's one of the biggest challenges. Yeah. Have we equipped them? So training and development should not be that usual thing we send a questionnaire around, do a training needs analysis or join the performance management. Some details are collected, we put it together. You go for this training, you go for that training, you go. No. It must be a deliberate attempt as to what capacity do we need to build in order to execute the organizational strategy. And that becomes HR's contributions to the strategy environment. Then we need to get that one very clear. We even need to understand what those training and capacity building programs are. Because we think that it's only about formal training. I ask organizations, do you have a formalized mentorship program? Who is mentoring who? And sometimes when we talk about mentorship, we think that your mentors must only come within the organization yeah. rather than looking at other external resources, because sometimes the problem might even be from leadership. They don't even know. So how do they translate it to the other members? Is there a coaching and mentoring program? How are we instituting simple, let's say, Thursday trainings, 3 to 4 p.m., and get internal people to be able to brief and educate? These are very inexpensive programs that we can be able to implement within the organization. How are we encouraging staff members to self-learn? How does it impact on their performance? How does it impact on how we evaluate them if they decide to self-learn? So, and that is, the capacity building area. Another key area is the resourcing. I always say that, let me show you something. Resource management in an organization is the biggest thing any leader is supposed to do. Because every organization, the need for resources far outweighs the availability of those resources. The effective management of these resources now becomes where a true manager shows himself as good to the organization and makes an impact. So you want to also find out, how are we? There are some consultancy projects I've done, and all that we have done to ensure performance is just realignment. Understanding each staff we have and understanding and positioning them in a place where we can get the best out of them. We had one consultancy project like that, and that's all that we did. Send this person to Takrady, this person must come to Kumasi, this person must move from here. And just based on those realignments, organizational performance increases. So sometimes these are, things that, and HR managers especially, the leaders must stop thinking operationally and start thinking strategically.
Exactly.
What is your contribution? It's not enough for you to just put things and let's allocate money for this. What is the impact of that allocation? I have dealt with some managers and I've told them, let me show you something. You've designed 5 programs, 5 different subject areas, because yes, maybe when you did your training needs analysis, this thing came out. But I'm asking, what do you think the impact will be? This problem is attitudinal in nature. One training doesn't change the attitude of the person. A sustained program is one. So when you put the money in there, you are basically wasting. And there have been times where, my team, one time was angry with me because there was this whole project, 320,000. And then I go in with my head of training, and I'm advising the company that, let's not do this.
You're not looking at the money, you're looking at other things.
No, because I'm just looking at the thing and it was waste of time. And the unfortunate thing for me was that it was done 2 years earlier. I got around 250,000, but I know that money was not worth it. And a new MD had come, directors have recommended the same program. And I said no.
Nothing changed from the beginning.
I said no, this would not make an impact. Right. But you see, if we had done it, it would have been ticked off as an HR budget.
Yeah, sure.
Why should all directors be traveling abroad?
To have this training.
Let me stop here.
Mr. Abbiw, I am particularly excited about this discussion because You know, when I was preparing for this interview, I went back to a research that we did at the HR Certification Center. I mean, I was just there out of the blue. Then I started thinking about the different generations we have in the workplace currently. And then I noticed that the baby boomers are 60. And so they are out of our space. So now when we are talking about generations in the office, we are not talking about baby boomers any longer. We are talking about the Generation X, the Ys, the Zs. And interestingly, in 10 to 15 years time to come, the Gen Alphas will join us.
Yeah.
And you were speaking about leadership development. What kind of future are we looking out for our businesses? And if the baby boomers are out, that means that the Generation Ys and X are in leadership position. And you know how we kind of vilify these generations. And so if the Generation X are not transitioning or are not transferring knowledge to this kind of generations, we're going to have the same problem being repeated. And that brings me to the issue of leadership development. Are businesses or business leaders intentional about developing leadership capacities, or we are just interested in developing the technical aspect of our people? What have you seen?
I think that you're going to cause trouble for me.
I like the trouble because it will stay a lot of conversations.
Because my thoughts are, a bit more radical in nature, and I put the blame squarely on those so-called good generation as we have it today, Generation X, Generation Y, and then we are vilifying the Generation Z. I'm a Christian. One key thing that we believe in is that train a child the way it should go, and then when it grows, it shall not depart from those ways. Yeah. Every problem that we think the Generation Z people have, we caused it.
Did you hear that? We caused it.
Because if we had trained them the way they should grow, that is how they would have been. But there's also an interesting thing about this whole idea about leadership and development. Whose responsibility is it? Are we even sure that the Generation X and the Generation Y
were good leaders?
Are good leaders?
Yeah.
No, let's look at the organization. Let's look at the environment. Let's look at what is happening around us. Is it also not a problem with how we are leading them? That is what is making them not being effective. Because honestly, every single generation and what pushes them to work. So you have those who came as Generation X, and for them it was a matter of survival. It was a matter of getting job, any job, and anything they would do. And in those days, it was a more of threat. I'll fire you. And they just needed something on the table, and they will work for you. And then there came the Ys, the likes of us, where we now moved away from just survival. Why? Because our parents had houses. They had built it for us. They've survived. So, we had some back support. Our parents were more concerned about our education and all those things. So it's no more about survival. Now, we started looking for quality of life. And so we started demanding travel allowance and that allowance and this allowance. The generations
now
have
there's one that is trending, workplace wellness.
Yes.
Yes, we'll talk about that some other time.
And so you realize that generations as we move ahead, and if you would remember very clearly, when we were growing up, the Generation X people said, you people have gotten it easy. Our time were a bit more tougher, was a bit more harsher. You people are okay.
I remember.
Is it not the same thing we are saying about the Generation Zs? Now, my understanding of it is that we are using the same leadership principles, the same leadership strategies that were used on us as what we want to use on them. And that is where the problem is. We must understand that every generation and how we can get the best out of them. I run my firm with a lot more of the Generation Zs, and we are building a formidable force here. We must start rethinking on how do we manage them? How do we lead them? What are the things that move them? How do we encourage them to learn and develop? Once we can start understanding that we cannot use old leadership principles on modern employees, then we'll be able to start now getting the solutions. And that solutions, and I dare say that the Generation Zs are the ones innovating, they are the ones creating, they are the ones moving things. What we need to do is focus them, and organizations can get the best out of them.
These generations are the ones innovating, they are the ones creating. What we need to do as Gen Ys and Gen X is to focus them, realign them to where we want our organizations to go. Stick and stay, don't go away. When we come back, we will be talking about building a roadmap for leadership. Right, you're welcome back to the HR Talk. I promise you this was going to be transformational. We've been speaking with Mr. Michael Abbiw on leadership blueprint, and we are talking about driving performance. And I told you that leadership is performance, and performance is action, or performance is doing. And so if you're not doing, you're not performing. If you're not performing, you are not leading. Now, in our backstage conversation, I was having a tete-a-tete with Mr. Abbiw, and he mentioned, or he said something, that businesses are now settling because they can find the right people, the right leaders. They settle, or we settle. Now, I want to ask Mr. Abbiw, what can businesses do not to settle, but to build a pool where we can fish from to get the right leaders, and also be sure that those leaders are developing other leaders for the future of the business? What is the roadmap for you?
Well, when I was speaking about the settling, it's one of the biggest problems that we have as recruiters. I have an HR consulting firm, and we do some recruitments, and you have people that come for various roles. Recently, we're trying to recruit the CEO for one organization, and you see that set after set, we are not getting that quality, and this is a role that was ready to pay 80,000 a month. We needed somebody with a bit of international experience, somebody that can go out there, hear from Ghana, and connect to the African region and bring connections and relationships in, and you realize that we are not getting that person at that level with that knowledge, and also within a reasonable years that could lead the organization for some time, and what happens is that we settle. And if you look at it also, now a lot of companies are poaching from this organization and going after that branch manager here, that sales manager there, that head of marketing, head of HR there. And it's like a chess game of the same type of people. One of the things it has done also is that it's pushed up prices so high that we need to pay people who really, in terms of output, do not qualify for those roles. What is my recommendation? I think every single organization, every single one of us must start looking at a leadership program. And I'm not talking about selecting 1, 2, 3 people and saying I'm putting them on a management program. No, we need to start building systems that grows businesses, that grows your people to become leaders of tomorrow. You need to be able to give everybody the opportunity. And remember, when we talk about leadership, we are not talking only about technical leadership or people who understand the technical side of business. We're talking about people who have the capacity to motivate, to inspire, to drive, to build teams, and to be able to get people to give of their best. That is what we must look at. And what is this leadership roadmap I'm talking about? First, we must have a plan. We must have a plan. How are we going to, deliver these new leaders for our organization? I was speaking to one, German business, and they are into a lot of capacity building. And I was having this HR conversation with him where he suffers a lot from training, his people, and then other companies coming for them. And I thought I was worried for him, and he was not. The old saying that, what if I don't train them and they stay? Now they leave that. But he doesn't even look at it from that dimension. He says that, you see, when we talk about supporting society, when we talk about community development, that is how he sees it. He's training the next generation for Ghana. He's building the next generation of people. So if I do it, if you do it, if everybody is doing it, we realize that the quality of the human resource within the organization and productivity, which performance is aiming for, will now increase everywhere we go. So have a plan, the first thing. Second, you need to look at, how do I identify people? So as you start implementing, you give everybody the opportunity, you now must start looking at who and who can fit into that leadership role, who is exhibiting. There are some people very good technically, but they don't want anything to do with leadership, with leading people, with having that leadership program. So now you need to start finding out who and who would want to be able to lead, who would like to lead. The third thing is also to identify. I have said, and I think I said it earlier, that not every single manager is a good leader. And some of them know next to nothing about leadership, just that they've been around for some years, they've been promoted for technical performance, and they are at the top. So they might not even have the willingness or the knowledge to teach or to develop others. So you need to now find which of your leaders have that capacity to build the next generation. And mind you, I always say that it must not necessarily be with internal resource. You can reach people out there to come and impact on your organization. You can align some of your staff with external resources to be able to develop them. And once you have identified these leaders, now you must now put them together. Those you've identified as potential leaders in the future, those who have the capacity to build, we must put them together to now start the program. Now, these programs will start first with understanding what is the aim of that leadership program. Everybody must understand this is where we are going. The second thing you want to do is to get them to have an assessment. So let's assess what are the areas that will need improvement, what are the areas we need to look out for, what are the areas that we'll need to build on when it comes to leadership. Now you finish the assessment, then you now must evaluate and then come to an agreement on what is it that both the leader and the aspiring leader are going to do together in order to be able to develop them. You must note and understand this. This is a long-term project and it must be continuous. So let me show you what we do here at MGL. We start off by making sure every single staff that we recruit have just finished national service. So we have an average age which is extremely low. So we take them directly after national service. Our mindset is very simple, that they have not been able to learn enough bad practices out there, and therefore we can't be able to instill a new culture, a new way of working, a new working environment that can now help them go. So we get them young. There are some of them after 3 months. In fact, I have one staff after 3 months, demonstrating clearly the ability to lead effectively. And after 3 months, we made that staff a leader. We gave them the opportunity, we gave them the resources, we gave them the technical knowledge. And I'm sure you're aware, we actually even came to Institute of Leadership and Strategy to build training. I'm a leadership trainer myself. Question is, why would I bring my team for Dr. Bassi to train them?
That external voice matters.
Give them some other dimension. Sometimes it even reinforces what you are saying. But yes, I have a young team, a developing team, And then we are building them up. Not all of them are able to get to the top when it comes to leadership. But at least everybody is given the opportunity so that we can unearth their capacity to be able to lead. And that becomes the direction that we are going. And as we keep on growing, as we keep on setting new units and new environments, we pick from the existing team who have been developed over time. So now we started young. I think the first staff I got was had just completed his HND, has finished his first degree, and now is the general manager for the logistics firm. So the person has done 8 years of tutoring, 8 years of direction, and therefore we don't need any experienced person to come from outside to come and take up these leadership roles. And I believe that every single organization must build this roadmap and build. We need to stop looking for cooked candidates, cooked workers, workers with 10 years experience, 8 years leadership role, where others have built, and start growing our own and then build. And then understand this, and I would end with what the German guy told me. When they leave, you are actually contributing to the society. You have built somebody better and stronger. And let me show you something. I had one of my staff leave me and join Deloitte. Fortunately for me, he works under a partner that I went to school with. So there was this event, and I met this partner from Deloitte. And then he comes, hey, hi, how are you doing? And then he shakes my hand. And he says, thank you. So I said, thank you for what? He said, your guy. That guy is a horse. He's smart. He's good. And although the guy left me, I felt so proud. And it was in that environment, I remembered what my client told me. When they leave you, don't be worried at all, because you have contributed to the betterment of the future. And it's in the same way another person will come to you.
Right. So before we sign off, Mr. Abbiw has been giving us the roadmap, what I call the leadership blueprint for businesses in Ghana and Africa. And he's talking about the fact that every business must have a leadership plan. The first point for starting is to have a leadership plan. And after the plan, you must identify those who need to go through the leadership development. After, go ahead and look for the developers, those who would develop the next generation of leaders. And mind you, it shouldn't just be internal, it can also be developers from external. They don't always have to hear that internal voice. The external voice is also very critical. And after all of this is done, you must continually assess the leadership development phase, whatever you're doing, whatever they have gone through. You must have some sort of assessment. And before the assessment, you need to develop an indicator that they must be assessed with. So we said we're going to do A, B, C, D. We said we're going to achieve X, Y, Z. Are we on track to doing that? And after everything is said and done, you must evaluate that plan that you have put in place. We need to build a pool from which we must fish from. Don't always buy from outside. Develop. And he concluded by saying that when you train them and they leave, you are actually contributing to developing society. You're contributing to developing the human resource of our nation, Ghana, and Africa, and the world at large. I will let Mr. Abbiw tell us his final words, but before we do that, this HR Talk is brought to you by the HR Certification Center. And now we have a partner, we have a sister organization that is into leadership and strategy. And so if you're thinking about setting up that leadership academy for your business, you want to talk to the Institute of Leadership and Strategy. Mr. Abbiw, let's take your final words for our viewers. This has been insightful and I have learned a lot, and I'm sure that our viewers out there have also picked one or two things for their organizations. Your final words, sir.
So I want to end with saying this, and I'm very much believe in it. When I hear people speak on radio, on TV, and it looks gloomy for Ghana. It looks gloomy for our future, and where are we going to? Can these Gen Zs and the new generations be able to lead us to where we want to go? I am extremely optimistic about the future of this country. I have been around for some years, some decades now, and I've seen the level of development before and where we're going. Fortunately, I've had the opportunity to travel and to see what others are doing and the level of growth that is going on. And I'm talking about others in terms of how old we are as a country and how old they are as a country. And I think that we are on the right path. Although I know that there's a lot of work that we need to do. And for me, I think that we need to start with the older folks. We need to start with those of us in leadership today and now. We need to build our own capacity, because a lot of us, still are holding the principles of old. We are still using the old principles that we learned in school. We need to start developing ourselves. And I believe strongly, if we work on ourselves, it will be easier to now shape the future for the next generation. And I want to join your call and to say that, let me show you something. If you're a leader and you are out there, leadership, we just don't get it. We just don't go into it. There's a lot to learn about leadership. There's a lot to learn to make your leadership more effective and impactful. The Institute of Leadership and Strategy is one institution that is dedicated itself to developing the next generation of leaders, as well as re-equipping and retooling us as current leaders. I have used them, and I think I would want to call on you to start considering or consider or call them and get them to come and work with you.
Dear business executive, dear functional head, we have been talking about leadership, and leadership is not positional. Positions would only offer you the opportunity to display what you have inherent in you. You must begin to build your capacity. You must begin to develop yourself where you are able to influence boardroom decisions. The people who you have under you are looking up to you for their own leadership development. I know this session has stirred up something in you. The time is now for you to take that bold step and develop your leadership capability. You have a mandate to build the next generation of leaders for your business and for Mother Ghana, and of course, for Africa and the world at large. This has been the HR Talk, and I have been your host, P. Tehoda. We will see you next time on different topic. Keep learning, keep developing, because you owe it to yourself. Cheers.